Your home has a beautiful covered patio. You've got this great outdoor kitchen, you have this dining area, you have a chase lounge, you've got the flat screen TV on the wall, and you use it one day a week. Why? Well, in the spring of the year, it's because of the pollen. In the summer, it's because the sun's too bright. At certain times of day, it's because of the nosy neighbor, or maybe the mosquitoes are too bad. Well, there's a company out there that can solve those problems for you, and that's Shade Doctor LLC, the only source for the exclusive X-ray product in all of the United States. Whether you're in the Southeast, whether you're in the Midwest, whether you're along the panhandle of Florida, it doesn't matter. Shade Doctor can take care of your patio. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching the latest edition of Improvement, the home improvement industry's dedicated podcast where we have various guests from all corners of the industry. Today, we've got a couple of very, very special characters from an organization called Destination Motivation. We have Stephanie Green and Caleb Nelson. We're super excited to have a conversation with you guys, and thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So, obviously this is the first time that we've had two people on. Normally it's more of a one-on-one conversation. So, look, you guys just dive in. I mean, we'll try not to step all over each other in the conversation, but I'd love to just kind of start out a little bit and learn a little more about both of you guys individually. So Caleb, let's start. Let's hear a little bit about you, about your history, and maybe some of how this very, very unique niche within the industry came to be.
Well, Thomas, thanks for having us on. It's an honor to be here and to have a nice discussion with your audience. I'm actually a college dropout. Just was one of those things, not for me. I was entrepreneur my whole life, and was always just hustling, building businesses, figuring it out. And I had a recruiting company in the mortgage industry. We recruited loan originators, and I actually worked with one of my mentors at the time, and we kind of stumbled upon this vacation thing. It was like a vacation certificate at the time, and we were like, well, this is cool. So we created this catalyst within our recruiting company where we leveraged the vacation certificate, and it was like co-branded, co-marketed with the loan originator and the real estate agent. Buy, list, sell with us, and you get this vacation. Like, how cool is that? Real estate agents love branding, and they eat up any free marketing. So it was a win-win-win all the way around until people went to book these things, and it was an absolute nightmare. It was impossible. So we had to curb that real quick, because we just happen to be working in industries that care about repeat business, referrals, and reputation. And that's what sort of sparked Destination Motivation, was just figuring out a better product in an industry where it didn't exist. And then I kind of stumbled upon the home improvement industry. I actually saw an ad in the newspaper, and it says something like $3,000 off windows. I was like, holy crap, how expensive are windows? Seems like a big dollar amount. And I also thought, like, if you needed new windows, you just, I don't know, you call your dad, and he calls his buddy Bob, and they go down to the lumber yard or Home Depot, and you got new windows, That's just kind of how I grew up. But apparently there was some very sophisticated sales and marketing organizations. And so I stumbled across my first one with this ad, and I remember calling the guy 50 times, and he was like, this sounds very weird. And then he had an off sales month, and the 51st time I called him, he said, all right, let's try it out. And after 26 years in business, he ended up having his best December in company history. When we all know Decembers are a tough month to sell in.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's I pivoted from real estate and mortgage, which I didn't love. No offense to you mortgage people out there, but it's just very cyclical, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in it now. And so,
No way on earth.
no, so stumbling in the home improvement industry, I found a mentor real quick. It was the company that first client of mine. I took him out to lunch like pretty much every Thursday for like almost a year. And I was just a sponge. I learned everything I could. Um, and now this program has sort of been normalized in the industry. When it was bizarre and weird, now it's sort of normal. So that's where we're at today.
That's interesting. I had heard about it. I guess the first time in maybe 2021. And so, it's interesting though, just as a side note, as I do these conversations with folks and I find so much, kind of shared history, commonality in the industry, and you hear you talking about, college dropout and, I can remember years ago in my own history, in my late 20s and 30s where that was like, yeah, I'm a college dropout, it's like trying to hide it right now. I mean, I'm like wear it with a badge of honor with, some of the
Oh,
ridiculous
I
nature of
mean,
what college has become. Then you talk about being in the mortgage business. So you and I actually share that. I was a mortgage broker for a period of time. Hated every minute of it, as I did almost every minute in college as well. So it's interesting, and I say all that to say that folks in this industry, whether, they're like mainline, windows and doors and your typical in-home selling, or there's some ancillary or related products, how much we all kind of have in common. I just find that very interesting. So it's
big
super
time.
cool anyway, particularly in conversations like this.
My wife back then, when she was my girlfriend, she was like, if we ever have kids, you're just gonna have to lie to them and tell them you went to college. I was like, I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, but then fast forward, we just this month is our 10-year anniversary in business, and now she's like, the tune has obviously changed because now she sees like,
Sure,
wow,
sure.
look what you can, build out there. And I mean, at one point, I had a employee that went to Yale. I was paying her like $20 an hour. So,
No,
you just
no. I'll tell you when it hit me. It hit me in about probably 2019, maybe 2020, when I'm in a home and I'm filling out a credit application on an attorney. And you get to the point, hey, what's the gross household income? And he spouted off a number, and I was like, huh. And I'm just thinking in my mind, and I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't go down that road, right? And
can you
so,
introduce me to can you introduce me to that attorney? Because he sounds very affordable.
well, maybe I got like the DeVry University or the night school guy, but anyway, I mean, it's not uncommon in our world, and sometimes people are shocked by that. There's some earning in the home improvement industry, and some of again, it's sometimes people and our good friend Earl Ron. One thing I always remember that Earl said is sometimes people have a stigma about selling, right? Being in sales. Man, I train and I coach people, and I learned this from Earl. I tell people every day, don't you ever be ashamed, afraid of earning your living by selling something. And verbatim, Earl used to say, trucks don't move, factories don't open unless somebody sells something. So whether it's a window and door, whether it's water filtration, whether it's solar, it really doesn't matter, or whether it's something that you guys sell, because regardless of what you're selling, it's still all customer service anyway, right? Okay,
Yeah, it's just
cool, cool.
creating that, that magic sauce, that ultimate customer experience. And this industry is, you have to these days because, it's competitive.
Do you need to scale your business? Do you need to get your products and services in front of the right customers? Maybe you need to build a new website. Maybe you need a very creative Google ad strategy or SEO built in behind your website. Well, if you need to take your business to the next level, you need to call my friend Billy with Grow Marketing in San Antonio, Texas. And look, you said it. You said that ultimate customer experience. And, I think we've got someone on the call there with us that we haven't introduced yet. And let's hear from her a little bit. Stephanie, who could certainly write a book about that experience as the happiness manager, happiness coordinator. But she brings light into every room she enters. So let's hear a little bit about you, Stephanie. How did you come involved? Come to be a part of this world as well?
Yes, well, I just first want to say that I'm also part of the college dropout club, so I'm feeling like I'm in good company
Yeah,
on this call here.
we
And look
need
at us
to.
now.
We either need to have like a weekly support meeting or a celebratory group, right?
Exactly, exactly. Well, ironically, I had no knowledge of the home improvement industry when I met Caleb or started working for his company. My experience was all in HVAC. And I remember telling Caleb when we were demoing people, I'm like, I can't do this. I don't know home improvement at all. He's like, Stephanie, you can do it. It's just like, it's no different. It's the same thing. I was terrified. Well, fast forward, I'm in my 8th year with the company and I love the home improvement industry with all of my heart. It's funny because you talk about stigmas and people will say, what do you do? I'm like, I work with home in the home improvement industry. And they equate that with a construction trade somehow. And they're like, oh, how's that? And my answer is the same every time. I'm like, you know what? I have to tell you something. I have met the most extraordinary people of my life within this industry. You mentioned one of them, the Rons, Amy and Earl Ron. And there are dozens of others, the Brian Gottliebs of the world, just incredible humans in general. But the leadership that these people demonstrate and impart to the people under their tutelage is absolutely extraordinary. And I've been a part of that, and that's what I think makes this industry so beautiful and just an incredible place to be. So I've been working with Caleb. I have the unique opportunity of, getting in where he was just starting to build. And like he said, people thought they're like, who are you? I remember going to shows and people are like, you guys are the cruise voucher. Like, what does this mean? Cruises, home improvement. How do these two things tie together? A lot of people would just walk by our booth because they could not get their heads around it. And fast forward now, we are a household name in the
That's right.
industry.
And
Yeah.
that's a journey in itself, from going from being an unknown to people are at least familiar with you at name. So, before we go much deeper, I mean, let's do two things. Number one, when did Destination start? Okay. And number two, tell us just on the surface, and we'll go into different layers of this conversation moving forward, but what exactly do you guys really do? Okay, so I see a lot of questions that are coming off of those two things, but let's establish those on the front end.
Well, technically, this month we're celebrating our 10th year anniversary.
Okay.
However, it's sort of a loaded question because when COVID happened, March 2020, we basically went to zero because it was a little unsensitive to be offering a vacation voucher when the whole world ceased to vacation. And quite frankly, that's really when and this is kind of the company we are. We rolled up our sleeves. Stephanie was a huge part of this, and just kind of dove in and uh, developed, created, inspired uh, our own organization, but then pivoted out there like, hey, this is something that, as things start to open back up that you're going to look forward to. And that messaging really resonated with not just homeowners, but with
Oh, I bet.
contractors.
I
And
bet.
when, when the home improvement industry took off later that year and was like just the, rocket ship that we all remember, um, we got to, be a part of that growth, which was really kind of, I think, helped catapult us and put us on the map. What do we do? We focus. So we live in the sales process, and we focus on really three KPIs. The two most important KPIs are close rate, and the big one we focus on too is cancel rate. So cancel rate is like some people call it rescission rate. Sale closes. Every homeowner has that 3-day right of rescission. In Canada, it's like 10, but a lot of people get buyer's remorse, especially nowadays when, consumer confidence is literally at an all-time low. Uh, the markets are a lot of volatility in the markets right now. People are like, the cost is higher than it's ever been with inflation and everything more expensive. So, that widget that was, $8,000 a few years back is now $16,000,
Sure.
and that's expensive, and financing's more expensive, and you go down the list. And so this becomes a significant value add in that value exchange. It's tugging on emotional heartstrings. It's differentiating from helping differentiate from competitive bids. It's a urgency tool. So it hits all those really important things in the sales process. Not just important, mission critical
Sure.
things. And nowadays, and this evolves, each year, but nowadays vacations, add that to the list. They become more expensive than ever. So they truly have become sort of a hidden competitor of home improvement. Do we want to spend our money on this? Do we want to spend our money on that? And so if you can be the company that is able to provide both, a quality home improvement project at a fair price, and you get to give this homeowner their next level vacation. Of course, there's some sales psychology in there that we train and teach, but that we're eliminating that buyer's remorse, and so we're lowering cancel rates on average by 55.7%, just overnight. It's not like, all right, we got to implement for 3 months and then we got to do this for 6 months and it's like overnight. And
Look,
so for some of our bigger
having
clients,
experience,
yeah,
having significant experience with the product, I would 100% agree with that. I mean, I've seen territories, I've seen markets go from a 10% rescission, on all written business down to 5 or 4% almost overnight. And so, sometimes in this industry, we hear things that sound maybe too good to be true. But this isn't one of them from my experience.
well, we do get that, all the time. It's still today. It's like, well, how does this thing work? Like, what, and so once we kind of talk it through, and it makes a lot more sense. But at first glance, we've normalized it in terms of like, the effect that it has, but people still are curious about how this thing works. And by the way, you mentioned New South and Amy and Earl, I will say big shout out to them, because you guys were the ones that kept us afloat through COVID, because you were one of the accounts that didn't hit the pause button, which was huge for us at that time.
What's your greatest resource in business? What's the largest challenge your organization faces? Well, I can tell you from experience, it's people. The home improvement industry is challenging. Sometimes it's hard to find the right people. It's very difficult to find people as skilled as you need them. You need a partner that can help, and that's Bricks Recruiting. Whether you need senior level management, whether you need sales reps, whether you're in building, whether you're in roofing, any element in the home improvement industry. If you need staffing, if you need leadership, you need Bricks. Yeah. And I would look at that. I mean, that's an Earl-driven philosophy. Earl doesn't have a pause button, and that translated through that whole organization for sure. So back in the beginning, was there ever any major consideration? Like, I know it's the home improvement space, but did you ever consider other industries, or did you dabble in other industries, or do you even today?
Yeah, we actually launched this year in the we're calling it like home furnishing industry. So you've got
Okay.
mattress firms. Our president, Brett Thornton, actually comes from the mattress world at the executive level. Seth, our director of training, comes from the mattress world. We've also we're about to launch the furniture industry.
Okay.
Um, And these are all, if you could, like, we look for high volume opportunities. We look for, some sort of price point in, 5,000 plus, average home improvement projects, 10, 15K, 20K, depending on the product. And, we're even looking at, jewelry, like, get an engagement ring, kind of stuff. So there's definitely,
that would seem to be a pretty a pretty good fit for sure there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, go on a honeymoon with
Sure, absolutely.
your engagement ring,
Yeah. Well, cool. So when you look at your types of companies that you partner with, particularly in the home improvement space, I mean, who does it, kind of who does it fit the most? I mean, because part of what we do in this podcast, we're in the beginning of kind of what we're doing with improve it, but I don't really want to focus on one segment over another. I want to focus only on the mega companies, because there are just as many guys out there that are, kind of smaller, owner operator, maybe where they effectively, they own a job, right? I mean, I think every business owner has to tackle that to some degree. Do I want to have a business, or do effectively I want to own a job?
Yep.
Okay, so there are two different ways. Does it fit one better than the other, or do you see some smaller companies utilizing what you do equally?
We obviously work with most of the big enterprise companies. We absolutely love our middle tier, companies that are, 10 million to 50 million a year in revenue. But we've got, smaller companies, startups. We crush it for them. Are there challenges there? Because they're wearing so many hats. Sure, but when we find the ones that are they just kind of get it. Like we're working with this one bath company, that's a startup, and they haven't had one cancellation in the 9 months that they've leveraged our program. Not one. I mean, for a company that desperately needs that capital,
Sure.
that cash flow, I mean, it's critical.
Well, it would seem to me that, when you talk about value added propositions, that for even the company on that end of the spectrum, it would further differentiate them from their competitors. Okay, whether that's, Joe's Hardscapes, or whether that's a small AC company, or whether it's, wherever it is in the industry. I mean, when you're dealing with a lot of enterprising companies, companies like Shade Doctor, like New South, like so many other companies that have grown in some size, multi-million-dollar companies, it would seem that there would be a great a great benefit to that smaller business, because there's got to be a lot less of those companies that are using a product like this.
Yeah, absolutely. There are. Again, it really comes down to those companies, figuring out, because as you're growing, as you're scaling, you've only got so much revenue to sort of go around, right? To your tech stack, or to whatever you're building out to scale. You're putting out a lot of fires every day, like, which is pretty normal. And trying to get to that next stage of like having some sales reps, and growing the marketing beyond organic, and all that stuff. So we fit in that model very well. We do have a requirement of it. We want them closing at least a minimum of 10 sales a month, which most companies are sort of in that sweet spot.
Sure.
But we have example after example after example of companies that we're helping get 50-60% growth year over year. And because at the end of the day, this is maximizing those touch points. Like when you go out on a lead and you don't close it, there's a cost to that. And so if we can, every lead is valuable, right? And the leads that you don't close, you're just burning. So the industry average close rate is what, 25, 30%. So 75% of the leads don't close. That's a big bonfire of leads. And so if we can help close and keep those leads and turn those into, revenue, profitable revenue, then, it makes a huge impact, to their bottom line and to, fund different projects that they have going on, whether that's building out a marketing department, building out a sales team. I mean, you name it.
So ultimately, your customers are providing their customers with the ability to travel, and it's kind of twofold. It's condo, resort, or it's a cruise voucher. Within kind of that conversation or that layout, what are the misconceptions? I'll kind of start out and throw one out and let you address it. This is not a free vacation, right? I think that's something that you guys have to address, with a lot of people, right?
The four-letter F word, we call it.
What's that?
We call it the four-letter F word.
Yeah, definitely not free. So explain kind of some of the cost. Obviously, your companies that you partner with are carrying that cost, but to the consumer, front-facing to the consumer, what does it look like?
Stephanie, you take this.
Okay. I think I just want to say this just to jump in with what you guys were just talking about. The beautiful thing about the program is we refer to it as a multi-tool because it really does do a lot of things for large companies, for small companies. And I liken it to when you have like a headache or you take an ibuprofen for something, the ibuprofen knows exactly somehow where that needs to go. And that's kind of how our program works for our clients. Whatever they need, it provides those things to them. So it's this differentiator, but also it helps close and keep deals, provide that perfect customer experience. And of course, travel. Why did we choose travel? Because we know that memories are tied to travel. And ultimately, we're helping our clients build out, whether they're small or massive, build that company customer relationship bridge built on 4 pillars of ours of repeat business, referrals, reviews, and reengagement. And how do we do that? Well, they have this beautiful home improvement project. Now they have this opportunity to travel. We've taken their mind off of the money they spent on home improvement, getting them something to look forward to in the form of travel. And then those memories that are made during that, those vacations with family, friends, and loved ones are directly tied back to the company. And that's how we create loyal customers for our clients. So the travel itself, and a lot of people get hung up on this because they think, oh my gosh, if this isn't free, how do we maximize the perceived value to the customer and make them feel like this is something significant? And it really comes down to lyrics in the home. And you can absolutely maximize the perceived value while managing expectation because we know that unmet expectations kills outcome. So this is a really critical part of our program. As a company, our clients cover a portion of the cost, and then the customer is responsible for a small amount on the back end. So the vouchers themselves save 50 to 80% off the rack rate or what a consumer could book on their own. Now, of course, they have to get to and from their destination. So whether that's a car drive or a plane, they have to get there. And then any fees and taxes that are associated in the terms of resort fees and taxes or port fees and taxes, they will be responsible for. So in the home, we do a discovery question to find out where the customer's been thinking about traveling. Do they have a bucket list trip they've been thinking of, a dream vacation? And we want them to establish what that value is to them. I always tell my sales teams and clients, the nice thing about travel, you don't have to sell the cost or value of that to anybody. They know that for one of two reasons, just like all of us on this podcast, right? You either travel and absorb the cost yourselves, or in some cases they can't afford to, particularly when they're making a high ticket item purchase like home improvement. And so we give them the opportunity to be able to have both and save a significant amount of money, go somewhere for people who travel anyways, because we get the question a lot, how do we make this a value for people who, might be high earners and don't need something like this? Ironically, those are the people that love the program the very most
Absolutely.
behind, right, Caleb? The people that
100%.
are, they're like, oh my gosh, So for those people, you're giving them something that they're going to do anyways. And then the most gratifying for us as a company is really knowing, and we get thousands of testimonials. We have thousands and thousands of customer testimonials of people saying, this gave me an opportunity that I would have never been able to do otherwise. And these beautiful, heartwarming stories of people whose family members have been ill with cancer and other awful things and have pulled through. And they said, now we have an opportunity to truly make a memory with this loved one in our lives. I have goosebumps just even talking about that, because
Sure.
those are the gratifying stories that we hear on the back end, and what makes us, love what we do even more every day.
Do you need to take your outdoor living to the next level? Do you want a different, unique structure that not everyone has? You need to check out a louvered roof pergola, custom built by Innovative Outdoor in Fort Worth, Texas. So, regardless of whether you have an existing covered patio attached to your home, maybe you've got that structure by your pool, maybe you've got that structure in a great outdoor living area that you need more coverage and protection from the sun above. Check out a louvered roof pergola from Innovative Outdoor. Call my friend Andy, and he will take care of you.
Well, that's awesome. So, look, and your enthusiasm, your excitement about the program just bleeds through. The thing I see and what's interesting here is just psychologically what goes on is there's a connection. What you said earlier is you don't really have to translate the value because people understand it. But this is why. They either understand it from the positive side or the negative side, meaning they've just gone on a trip and they're looking at the credit card statement, or they've just made the decision not to go on a trip because they didn't want to incur the expense. So people already understand the cost with going to Mexico or going on the Caribbean cruise or the Alaskan cruise because either they've done it or they've chosen not to. Okay, and the benefit for us, that at least for you guys, and when I say us, those that participate in the program, is we don't have to sell. You don't have to be a travel agent. Okay, the way I've historically seen the benefit for organizations I've been involved with is not everybody can be a travel agent. Not everybody wants to navigate that discussion, but we can all be a gift giver, right? And I see just huge value in doing that for our customers. Well, guys, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for for our new partnership and for where that can go down the road as well. And thank you for what you're doing for the industry and for thinking outside the box and giving companies the ability to keep projects on the books, to get more projects to the books. But even aside from those metric driven things, for having the ability to say thank you in a different way to our customers. That's important to me, and thank you for being involved with that. Any final thing that either of you guys would like to say? I know we don't want to take all of your time. We're so thankful that you've chosen to be able to join us and to discuss this today. I will make a pitch out there that if you are a home improvement company, large or small, or if you're in the mattress world or the jewelry world, don't hesitate to reach out to these guys and partner with them to help enhance your business, because they can definitely help.
Yeah, I'll just I'll tie a bow on that, Thomas. I appreciate that. I appreciate that feedback. I always say time either promotes you or exposes you. This is true in relationships. This is true in friendships. This is true in business. Thankfully we've got that thing called the internet that people like to go on and complain. Um, every business, you can't avoid it, but we've been in business for 10 years now. And we've got, like Stephanie mentioned earlier, literally over 3,900 reviews, 3,600 plus alone on Google, maintaining 5 stars, maintaining A+ of the Better Business Bureau. So you can't do that in that long of a period unless
No,
you get something that works.
You can't
It's
fake
impossible.
that. How and where is the best way for companies to be able to find you guys? Let's get that out there.
The name of the company, Destination Motivation, but our URL is increaseour, like OUR sales.com.
Okay.
increaseoursales.com. And yeah, I mean, if you're a company out there that's looking for a boost in your close rate, you're looking to eliminate your cancel rate, you want to become more profitable with each sale that you make. And now more than ever, if you need to generate some more leads, we've got strategies that are making huge impacts on lead generation right now. So sort of a one-stop shot, all the above.
Okay, fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for joining, and look forward to talking to you again in the future. Thank you.